Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. We had champions and number one contenders losing everywhere you turn tonight on Monday Night Raw, which could only mean one thing. It must be time for a go-home show, which in fact it is. We got the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up this Sunday, and WWE does what they do best. Fails to make us excited, fails to do anything interesting or build anticipation for what is usually a highly regarded pay-per-view. But we got all of that, plus the surprising, shocking events of the debut featuring Eva Marie's return to Monday Night Raw, which didn't do anything to make matters any better. All of that and so much more right here and right now. I am Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review and reaction show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
You know, the main event for tonight's show was supposed to be Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles. Why? I don't know, but here's a match that I would actually have enjoyed watching, and I thought for once maybe the WWE was going to go out on a positive note, not doing the traditional things that they usually do to build a pay-per-view, but lo and behold, before that match was done, it would divulge into a six-man Teddy Long special, holla 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 tag team extravaganza that did nothing but have all three champions of Monday Night Raw, the world champion Bobby Lashley and the tag team champions AJ Styles and Omos, on the losing end of things before Monday Night Raw was through. So all three champions lost. How about that? Things were not that much better for the women on this night. We had 5 women's matches tonight. We had 3 women's segments. Most of these things were featuring or revolved around Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship, and not much of it was any good. We had Alexa Bliss telling the world we got Lily being put in a timeout due to her actions that she did last week, the shocking end of Monday Night Raw that was absolutely cringe TV, and Shayna Baszler is now nowhere to be found, which leads me to a question. Shayna Baszler wasn't on this show tonight, but here's a question for you guys. Riddle me this, my friends, your favorite Monday Night Raw segment. Riddle me this, I have a question for you. What is red and white? Where's red, white, and blue, and doesn't seem important enough to WWE Creative to feature on the flagship show Monday Night Raw? If you answered the United States champion Sheamus, you'd be correct. Why did I segue from Shayna Baszler not being on the show to Sheamus? Because Sheamus wasn't on this show. There was a number of talents not on this show. Sheamus wasn't on this show. Ricochet, Humberto, all 3 of these guys not on this show. Angel Garza, Drew Gulak, not on this show. Damian Priest, wasn't he supposed to come out of the other end of that whole feud with The Miz and Bad Bunny as a huge, big superstar? Where the hell's he been on Monday Night Raw? He's been doing nothing, but we still have time for The Miz and John Morrison to come out and play with a fucking dipstick. We got time for that, right? We also had T-Bar and Mace, T-Bag, our old friend T-Bag and Mush, ex-Retribution trash. They've got nothing for these guys. They've been on TV, haven't they? Oh, speaking of being on TV, Mansoor and Ali. Nothing for these 2 guys. Not even a 5-second conversation in the back that could have aired on Monday Night Raw tonight. Which brings us back around the circle to Shayna Baszler. These are all Monday Night Raw talents that were not used for even a microsecond on tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Raw. But I can sit through another match that has Elias versus Jackson Riker. A feud nobody asked for, a feud nobody wants, and a match tonight that ended the exact same way it ended last Monday by having Elias look like a jackass and a complete and total coward by backing away from this match, getting himself counted out. Oh, we had time for me to have to be forced to watch Reginald get involved in Alexa Bliss's first match back. You would think with all of the hoopla and all of the shit that they've been pushing down our throats with Alexa Bliss that her first match back would be a big deal. She has her former best friend, Nia Jax, show up defending the honor of Shayna Baszler and challenging Alexa Bliss to a match tonight. Alexa with Lily in timeout because WWE knows that shit ain't gonna fly with the live crowd. She accepts the challenge. You would think this was going to be a big deal. You would think in her first match back, Alexa Bliss was going to get a solid win over somebody the likes of Nia Jax, who it wouldn't hurt to beat Nia Jax. She's been a tag team champion for much longer than she should have been. There would be no damage to her push, no damage to her image, and it would have elevated Alexa Bliss just a little more. But we can't have a clean win there. We have to have Reginald. I have to look at Reginald, but Sheamus, we don't have time for you. But we got a segment for Reginald. We got over half the show featuring the women's division. And while you may have some of the most talented women's wrestlers on the planet, when you have the worst booked women's division, the worst booked, let's emphasize that word, booked, which means that it's not so much the fault of the women as it is the assholes that are putting pen to paper and writing what the women have to do. When you have the worst booked women's division on the planet since the days of the Divas, maybe don't have half the show be focused on that division. Because it really dragged down the show. And even though the big hyped Eva Marie return was on tonight's show, unless you're a fan of Eva Marie, you don't give a shit. Which means that I don't give a shit. I know you guys certainly didn't give a shit whatsoever. But let's be honest here. Eva Marie picked up right where she left off when she was kicked away from the WWE just a few short years ago. Now it seems like it wasn't long enough. But here, we have her after all of these vignettes of us watching her work out and do her little rope thing and have her picture taken in all these fancy dresses talking about how she's going to be this new Eva Marie and she's going to wrestle and she's going to try her hardest and all this shit that she was saying in these ridiculous vignettes. She shows up tonight and debuts on Raw, but didn't actually wrestle, but somehow found a way to get the win. You see, Eva Marie has been trolling us all along, which was her gimmick that she was doing back in the day. She would find numerous ways not to wrestle, numerous excuses, numerous reasons not to wrestle, and she was trying to use that to get over. But now there's a small little speed bump, and I shouldn't say small, it's a rather sizable speed bump, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, so calm the fuck down. It's PIPER NIVEN showing up as her heater. Okay, she came out with Eva Marie, and nobody knows what her name is. Now, I know what you're thinking. First, you're probably thinking that I'm going to tear down the fact that PIPER NIVEN is even with Eva Marie, and that's not the case. That's not the case. As much as I hate Eva Marie being back, them pairing her with PIPER NIVEN actually gives them the small opportunity to turn PIPER NIVEN into a big star. The problem I have is that they failed to give her a name. Now, Sean Ross Sapp was reporting on Twitter during Monday Night Raw with his live feed that he got the dirt, the info on the proposed name for PIPER NIVEN's main roster debut, and they were going to go with the name Dewdrop. And thank God, maybe that's why they didn't say anything. Maybe they're going, you know what, maybe that's not the name we're going to go with. So we just won't have a name for her tonight. And that's worked in the past. Like, how long did China show up on Monday Night Raw without anybody knowing what her name was and everybody going, who is this girl? Who is this woman? Blah, blah, blah. And that could work when you don't know who the fuck this woman is. But the fact of the matter is, Piper Niven is a former NXT UK Women's Champion. She's been under the WWE banner for years. She's been part of the Mae Young Classic. For the announce team to sit there and act like they don't know who the fuck she is makes me feel like an idiot. It makes me feel like an idiot. I'm embarrassed for you idiots that they're making you have to sit there and act like you don't watch your own product. You're making your employees look like they don't know what's going on outside of the brand that they're working for. Aren't your employees fans of wrestling? Wouldn't they be watching the better wrestling shows? Of course they would. They would know who Piper Niven is. But they're just standing, who is this woman? I wonder who she is. Piper Niven shows up, she wrestles the match for Eva Marie, she destroys Naomi, and they don't have a name for her by the end of this match. Eva takes the microphone and says the winner of this match is Eva Marie. So what does that mean? Is Piper Niven Eva Marie also? Are there two Eva Maries? There's going to be Eva 1 and Eva 2, like Thing 1 and Thing 2? What are we doing here? It's just a shame. And it's not so much that they didn't give her a name, but it's the announce team acting like they don't know who this is. Imagine Walter fucking showing up and these guys going, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Or Karrion Kross or an Adam Cole showing up on Monday Night Raw. Who's this guy? I don't know who's this big bald man with the sexy blonde woman? Who's the sexy blonde woman? Oh, I don't know. She looks like a smoke show to me. What kind of idiocy is this? This is the same idiocy that writes a Monday Night Raw go-home show that is full of matches that have repeat finishes throughout the entirety of the show. Multiple count-out victories, multiple disqualifications, multiple distractions, and of course, the obligatory champions having to lose to make the challengers look viable. Now, the silver lining to that last piece with the champions is normally this would state, or this would lead us to believe, that come Sunday, both Bobby Lashley and AJ and Omos are most likely walking out of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view with their championships intact, being that Drew and the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders both got the upper hand on tonight's episode leading into the show. You gotta believe with WWE's 50-50 booking mentality that was the thought process going in, and they did it all in one match because we had to have half the show featuring the ladies. And of course, you know, not that there's anything really wrong with that. It's just that they write them terribly. And it's just not worth watching. It's not worth watching at all. Whereas, of course, WWE coming into this sudden Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre rematch inside the Hell in a Cell this Sunday, you know, they don't know what to do to build it up, so they go to their ace in the hole. And they have to have the tag team champions involved in the world title storyline. It's just like we keep going around the same old circles over and over and over again, and it's Groundhog Day, man. It just never fucking changes, and Monday Night Raw was once again a clusterfuck of a disaster of a show. However, we did have some matches tonight that featured some fantastic wrestling, and my hat has to go off to Randy Orton and Matt Riddle and the New Day. Had a fantastic tag team matchup tonight. Really, really great. And I loved everything that AJ and Drew were doing until all the fucking shenanigans happened. But there's not really much more than that on this show. Rhea Ripley and Asuka had a decent match as well. Probably Rhea Ripley's best match on the main roster, but she's still terrible on the mic. Her character is cringe, And it's pretty much just a matter of time before she hands the title back over to Charlotte Flair. And at this point, I would welcome that only to get it off of Rhea and to move the title and Charlotte Flair onto something else very quickly. Maybe something that we could get into, because they really dropped the ball with Rhea Ripley. She was on fire last year going into WrestleMania 35. And ever since she lost to Charlotte Flair and Charlotte became the NXT Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley has never been able to come back. No matter how hard they try. They're not doing her any favors with the promos that they're writing her. But I will give her credit on her match tonight with Asuka. Probably her best in-ring performance to date on the main roster. And at least she didn't lose. But, you know, that's Asuka's job. Asuka's job is to lose now that she's not the women's champion. Outside of that, there was nothing good to go on this show. And I feel bad, because I love women's wrestling and I love a lot of the women involved in a lot of the segments on this show tonight, but they were just useless. Case in point, the way Monday Night Raw opened up, Alexa Bliss telling us, oh, Lily's in the timeout because she was a bad girl. And then Nia Jax comes in, challenges her, as we already mentioned earlier. She accepted the challenge, but there was nothing here. There's nothing here. There's no follow-up, really, to Shayna or anything that they were doing with that. WWE has to come to their senses. They know July is knocking on the door, and they have to get Alexa Bliss out of this mystic bullshit and back to some sort of normalcy. And maybe she's kicking the doll to the curb before they could even get started. Or maybe Shayna Baszler killed Lily last week, and Alexa doesn't want to tell us since she put her boot on her throat. I don't know. Maybe that would have been a more interesting way to go about it. But at this point, do you care? Of course not. Of course not. But they can't have Alexa doing spooky magic tricks in front of a live crowd. It's not going to work. Even The Undertaker didn't go that far, so let's not do this. It didn't work for The Fiend when they tried it. It's definitely not going to work for Alexa. The first women's match on this night would be Nikki Cross versus Charlotte Flair, a rematch from the 2-minute challenge, which Nikki Cross, I guess, survived. She didn't win, technically, but, you know, neither did Charlotte. But what better way to showcase your number one contender than to make her have a match with Nikki Cross, which was, again, at first it was looking like they were going to have a match. It was getting some time. But, you know, Rhea Ripley, of course, had to come out and interfere. Well, not interfere in the match, but she came out. And then she was sitting there watching the match. You know, we had to have the distraction so that we can go to commercial. And her presence at ringside made Charlotte Flair get counted out. And Nikki Cross wins. So now she has another victory over Charlotte Flair. She has that 2-minute challenge victory over Rhea Ripley. Nikki Cross is starting to really build a case for her being involved in the Women's Championship situation. Even though it's by default, not because she's winning due to her own true grit and getting a 3 count, but she's been winning, right? She's getting a little bit of a rub through this. WWE is going to end up squandering it and waste it. After the matchup was over, Charlotte was pissed. Of course, she attacked Nikki Cross, and then Rhea Ripley made the save, laying out Charlotte Flair with a riptide. So, as you can see, we had the show begin with a women's segment. We had the show kick off with a women's match, and then a follow-up post-match beatdown by Rhea Ripley. That's already 3 segments, and we didn't even get started yet. John Morrison had a match with Jeff Hardy tonight so that he could shoot him in the face with his dripstick. The referee decides to start the match while Jeff Hardy's like cleaning the water out of his eyes. Jeff Hardy wasn't even ready for this match to begin. Maybe that was part of the story. Maybe that's why Johnny Drip Drip beat Jeff Hardy in under 3 minutes. Jeff Hardy, former world champion, multiple time world tag team champion, TLC match godfather, innovator with the rest of his brethren that established that whole thing, but he's losing to John Morrison in less than 3 minutes. This is all because Cedric Alexander came out. much like Rhea Ripley in the match right before this, Cedric came out to be the distraction here. He didn't so much cost Jeff Hardy the match, though, as it was just his presence outside was annoying. And then he would challenge Jeff Hardy to a match after John Morrison already beat him in 2 minutes. He's like, I will kick your ass into a retirement home. Jeff Hardy says, if you fight me right now and beat me, I'll retire. So right now, you know Jeff Hardy's going to beat Cedric Alexander, just so A, WWE can give Jeff Hardy his win back before having to get to next week. And B, you know they're not going to have the retirement match of Jeff Hardy on an impromptu moment during a Monday Night Raw go-home show for Hell in a Cell. That is a moment that when it does come down to it, they can promote and advertise the shit out of for a high rating for an episode of Raw. So many people will come out to see Jeff Hardy's last match. Even if it's not his last match ever, they know it's going to be his last match in the WWE. If he goes to AEW, who cares at this point? It's going to draw a rating. It's something they're going to want to make money off of, and they're not just going to give it away like that. Case in point, they didn't. Jeff Hardy defeated Cedric Alexander in less than 3 minutes after losing in less than 3 minutes to John Morrison. So how bad does that make Cedric Alexander look? This guy just went out there and lost. You couldn't even beat him after he already had a whole nother match. Sure, it didn't last long, but he lost. And you couldn't capitalize on that? Cedric Alexander looks like a jackass. And the only person coming out of here with a clean win in this whole scenario is John Morrison. Which begs the question, why is he getting the push and not Damian Priest? Because he's got a dripstick? Damian Priest don't have a dripstick. He didn't come up with a friggin' squirting water gun gimmick. So now he don't get to be on TV. TV. We had chili dogs for dinner tonight. And of course they want to come up on me now because I'm talking about Raw and it's making me nauseous and it's making my food want to come right back up. You've seen it live right there in real time. Holy shit. So then we get to the Eva Marie segment. We kind of went over it, so we're going to glaze over it once again. PIPER NIVEN, who is nameless on the main roster right now, defeated Naomi for Eva Marie. All right? And it was a dominating performance. It barely lasted a minute. Poor Naomi is the one that they used to sacrifice in this moment. And I feel bad for her above all else. She deserves much better than that. But PIPER NIVEN, as we were saying earlier, which I didn't really dive into, the potential for her to turn into a big superstar will come when she makes the turn on Eva Marie. Eva is going to get to everybody so quickly with this gimmick. I would not be surprised if it leads to her holding the Raw Women's Championship before summertime, only to have PIPER NIVEN and her clash at some point. Piper's going to get a championship opportunity versus Eva Marie, and that would be where I would go with it. You know, you establish them as this very awkward heel duo. You saw it in their interactions tonight. Eva Marie doesn't even look like she's happy to be associated with Piper. After PIPER NIVEN won, she was giving Eva Marie the hugs outside the ring, and she looked like she was being attacked by a slime monster. Like she was disgusted and wasn't really thrilled about what was happening here. So the seeds are already there for there to be tension between the two, and once the live crowds come back, when PIPER NIVEN turns on Eva Marie, a star will be made. Because the fans are going to hate Eva Marie's guts. So if that's the plan going forward, then we'd have to accept it. We don't have to like it, but we have to accept it. Will WWE do that? That's the real question. Are they smart enough to do that? It doesn't seem so. But the potential is there. So I'm not happy to see Eva Marie back. I should have known this was going to end up just being a troll job at the end of the day. But if it's going to bring a credible female wrestler to the roster and somewhat place her in position to be catapulted into stardom, you can't really shit on it all too much. And until we see Eva in the ring, I'm not going to say anything. I have nothing to say. Tonight's segment, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Could have been better. But it also could have been much worse. Case in point, Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke were doing a photo shoot. We had to show this from earlier in the day. And they were getting mad because Tamina and Natalya were making noise working out in the ring while they were trying to take pictures. This, for some reason, turned into a brawl because Mandy and Dana were like, oh, yous are only the champs because of your last names. You know, the old adage when you have a second-generation champion. And then it just turned into a brawl, and then they broke it up, and undoubtedly we're going to see Mandy and Dana get yet another shot at the championships because there are no other women's tag teams in the division. But here we once again had another very unnecessary women's segment for this show. But no time for the U.S. champion Sheamus. No time for Damian Priest. But we do have time for Drew McIntyre to have an interview where he decides to become Professor McIntyre and give us another history lesson about William Wallace and his Scottish heritage. And he wants to throw in there a joke that he stole from the internet wrestling community from about 2 years ago when Bobby Lashley was showing his ass to the world, and me and any self-respecting podcaster worth his salt were calling Bobby Lashley Bobby Trashley. All of a sudden, years later, Drew McIntyre's caught up to the joke, and now he's doing it on Monday Night Raw while comparing himself to William Wallace. Drew McIntyre's promos have just become absolute dog shit. They're the drizzling shits, and I don't want to hear them. It's not even so much like he could deliver them. You know, he's got passion in his voice, and he's not a bad promo. It's just what they give him to say. It's just some of the most cringeworthy shit ever. It really is. They turned him into fucking Mel Gibson's Braveheart, and they're just going with that. This guy was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in NXT, and now he's a caricature of his once former great self. Complete with a hilt and sword costume to go with it. Best match of the night, hands down. Matt Riddle, Randy Orton, defeating the New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Fantastic action. No nonsense. No bullshit. 20 minutes. Great tag team matchup. Randy and Riddle looked great. The New Day looked great even in defeat. And I know some of you guys, like myself, are on that fence of, man, I'm just so tired of even seeing the New Day act. They've been around for probably a decade at this point, and it's just kind of become stale. But when they're going out there and putting on matches like this, it don't matter how stale the acts become. They're putting on some of the best matches I've seen them put on as of late, and I dug it. I dug every minute of it, and we have to give credit where credit's due, or else we are not a credible organization here, are we? When something's good, we tell you it's good, just like when something is shit, we tell you it's shit. This, thankfully, was not shit. This was fantastic. Randy Orton catches Xavier Woods with the RKO for a pinfall victory in a very fun match with a lot of really great spots. So many spots that me talking about it wouldn't even do it any justice. If you missed this one match, do yourself a favor, go check it out. It was really great. Especially there was this one particular spot that I gotta mention where the New Day had Matt Riddle up. I think it was Xavier Woods that had Matt Riddle up on the shoulders, LOD style. And then Kofi Kingston went to the top and jumped off the top rope and did a double stomp from that electric chair drop position. It was a thing of beauty. There was a lot of great stuff like that going on in this match. Matt Riddle looked great. Really fantastic stuff. Like I said, this was not shit. But do you know what was shit? And we'll get a poop hammer, although I probably should have pulled this poop hammer out about 6 times already tonight. We'll pull it out right now for Rhea Ripley's promo. Rhea Ripley said Charlotte should be focused on their match Sunday, but she's too worried about her bruised ego. Ripley thinks it's funny watching somebody so powerful crumble, and she wants to send Charlotte to the back of the line. And then she told the promo bot girl, I forget her name, Sarah Shriver, maybe, I forget what it is. She says, "Get out of my face," so she can get ready for Asuka. So in this promo, she's going back and forth from babyface to heel, just from sentence to sentence, and she delivered it terribly. Definitely deserves a poop hammer. Her match tonight, however, and the follow-up, I will say, was not that bad. But the Raw Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley, as we said, defeated Asuka in a non-title match. This match went a little bit over 10 minutes. It had some decent action. But of course, Charlotte will attack Ripley after the match. This was a really intense back and forth, probably the most I've seen between these two. Charlotte ended with a bloody nose by the time this was all said and done. It was a pull-apart brawl. She yelled at Adam Pearce to get the fuck off me, but it was bleeped, so to the point where when they showed it in the replay, it had to be bleeped and censored once again. And this was a nice way to, I guess, lead into their championship match, but all of the other stuff that they've done just has seemed kind of underwhelming and unnecessary. But you see right there, once again, we had the promo from Rhea Ripley that went into the match. Then after the match, went into the post-match segment. So there was another 3-in-1 right here. Just a very women's division heavy show tonight. Thankfully, this wasn't as bad as the rest of the stuff that they did with the girls on this show. We got to go see Bobby Lashley party with the Lashley ladies in the back. MVP said that the male interview guy, the new Mean Gene wannabe, isn't addressing the champ properly. He then asked if he had any idea why McIntyre had to face AJ Styles tonight. MVP didn't know, but he did say that Lashley was off because that is one of the perks of being the champ, is that you don't have to fight all the time, I guess. When you would think that being a champion would make you want to fight, but I understand. It's the heel gimmick. I don't have to fight. I'm the champ now. Sit back, enjoy the spoils. Something I said that they should do with champions on many times with this challenge, so I'm not too mad at it. I just feel like it's such a departure from where they were going with the Hurt Business that I miss that. I miss that so much more than I dislike what they're doing with Lashley. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it could be better, I guess. Bobby Lashley then said that he liked Drew McIntyre's promo, but he's going to publicly execute Drew McIntyre before mounting his head on a stick, much like the fate of William Wallace, which is exactly how I felt by the time this episode of Monday Night Raw was over. Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax went one-on-one after this, and it went less than 5 minutes, and Alexa looked as if she was actually going to get the win. She looked like she was getting her ass beat at first, but suddenly she would let out this demonic scream, and the next thing you know, she's hitting a twisted Bliss from the top rope. And then there was Reginald. Reginald came in, broke up the cover, got Nia Jax disqualified. So yeah, Alexa gets the win, but you would think it would be better than this. This was a waste. And only making things worse, after the match, she was staring down Reginald, who started to act weird. So I guess maybe Alexa possessed him for a second, because he started to mirror her movements. And it was weird. And then Alexa Bliss just left. And then Reginald woke up and Nia Jax was there. And that was that. Another useless segment that did nothing for anybody involved. A nice follow-up from last week. MVP was backstage with the New Day once again. He's continuing, it appears that he's continuing to try to recruit Kofi Kingston somehow. I don't know. But Kofi Kingston stood his ground and gave all the credit for everything that he's been doing. He does with the love and the support of his friends and his family. Whereas MVP's coming at him like, do you understand that you haven't been the world champion because of people like Woods that are holding you down? Your tag team shenanigans have been holding you down. And Woods is standing in the background, just kind of taking it all in, telling MVP, yo, listen, man, we got to go do things and whatever. Hurry up. We got to get home and put water in your mama's dish. He said, we're calling his mama a bitch without calling his mama a bitch. And then Kingston told MVP to back off unless he wants to find his teeth on the floor and possibly be walking around with 2 canes instead of the one he's walking around with right now. Now, here's the thing. MVP would then wish him luck on Sunday and go, oh, wait, you don't have a match on Sunday, and then walk off. I believe Kofi Kingston. I believe every word he says, and I believe that he will not turn and join MVP. But wouldn't it be fucking great if Xavier Woods did? Right? Like all this time, the words of MVP were getting through to Woods, and Kofi's not going to stand for it because he's already been to the top. He's accomplished his dream. He's made it to the WWE Championship, and he did do that thanks to the love and the support of his family, his brothers in the New Day, and his fans and his friends. That's all true. But none of that happened for Xavier. And what's holding Xavier down? Being part of the New Day. You got Big E winning Intercontinental Championships. You got Kofi Kingston winning the world title at WrestleMania. Where's Woods? Woods left out in the cold. The lone member of the New Day who never really got his due. What if that's the story that they go to? Like that hard right turn that you're not going to see coming. Well, I could see it coming. Or at least that's what I would do if I were writing it. But unfortunately, you guys know, longtime fans know, I can write this show with my eyes closed, and it would be better than the trash that they turn out on Monday Night Raw. Because despite how good this one little segment was, we have to go right back to the bad moments, which is going to get another poop hammer here because there's nothing worse than having to watch a match featuring Elias, except when it's a rematch with Jax and Riker from last week that has the exact same finish. This match didn't go even 3 minutes. A lot of wrestling on this night didn't make it to the 5-minute mark. And then there were a couple of matches that went way beyond, like the tag team match and Drew versus AJ, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But Jax and Riker defeated Elias because Elias walked out and got a count out. The second count out of this show, the third or fourth schmaz finish already on the night? Unnecessary. Even the announce team was pissed off that Elias was walking off. They then ran a video package for Hell in a Cell. And then we had Drew McIntyre come in. They plugged NXT. They ran down the Hell in a Cell card. And then Lashley's music hit. And there were couches suddenly on the ramp or on the stage. And he came out with his ladies. And then AJ came out with Omos. And they were distracted by the ladies. And then they walked on for their match. And with all of this circus going on at the start during the entrances, you know it's only a matter of time before some sort of bullshit goes down. And Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles was starting to have a great match. It went way over the 10-minute mark, but somewhere in the middle, they had some shenanigans go down. You had Bobby Lashley running down to the ring because he was apparently going to attack Drew McIntyre because Omos pulled AJ Styles out of the ring, which prompted the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders to show up. And I was very, very concerned that when we came back from commercial, we were going to have a 6-man tag team matchup. But much to my surprise, when we came back, it was still just AJ versus Drew, with everybody just standing outside like a bunch of clowns. Bobby Lashley's ladies took off for the limo in the back. They moved the sofas and the ropes away, and Bobby and MVP are standing at ringside with Omos, and you got the Viking Raiders on the other side for Drew McIntyre. And just when you thought it was safe and that we were going to be safe from a 6-man tag, Bobby Lashley jumps into the ring hits Drew McIntyre, and gets the disqualification, giving Drew McIntyre the win, giving AJ Styles his first of 2 losses on this night. The Viking Raiders then jumped in and started to attack Lashley like a couple of heels and kept working on him like a heel tag team, which was weird. Then we went back to commercial and came back to the Holla 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 Teddy Long 6-man tag team spectacular, which ended with Drew McIntyre and the Viking Warriors. Viking Raider Warrior Raiders. Raw's fried my brain this evening. Defeating the WWE Champion and the Raw Tag Team Champions after another maybe 15 minutes added to this matchup. This was 30 minutes, 30 plus minutes of making the champion, the tag team champions, and the challengers all look like a bunch of fools. Every single one of them. Absolutely ridiculous. There was a little bit of a confusion in the finish as AJ Styles was going to the corner to make the tag. It seemed like he was going for almost, but missed almost, and got Lashley accidentally. At least that's what I think they were going for. Like, oh, they didn't mean to tag Bobby Lashley. Which could be one of 2 things. One, it could have been a legitimate accident, right? Or it could have been written to be a legitimate accident. And the intention behind that would be to plant the seeds for maybe an AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley feud after he dispatches Drew McIntyre in Hell in a Cell on Sunday. And I would be just fine with that. Would love to see Lashley versus AJ for the WWE title. Even if it's just an interim match until we get to SummerSlam. We don't know what's going on Raw. Even the people that write Raw doesn't know what's going on Raw. But that would be the best case scenario, I think, going forward. Because that weird little miscommunication caused Lashley to turn around and get hit by a Claymore kick before he even really kind of knew he was in the match. Then McIntyre ended the match after that Claymore kick, pinned the champion, and then was just shouting at a beaten down Bobby Lashley, not looking so almighty as he should be, as the show faded to black. And my interest in Monday Night Raw fades to black from the minute it hit 7:59 all the way through. And while we did have some really decent wrestling, most especially the tag team matchup featuring RK Bro and the New Day, this show was an epic failure when it comes to go home shows. Way too much focus on the Charlotte Rhea stuff, way too little focus on everything else, too much Bobby and Drew. We went through the list of all the people that weren't even used on this show. Like, it's just ridiculous at this point. And it just continues to seem like the WWE is just in this little bit of a holding pattern right now. And when the fans come back, July 16th, maybe the show will start to flow. Maybe they'll actually start to go in a direction instead of just kind of hovering out in space, like nothing's going on at all. So that's it. That was Monday Night Raw tonight. Thank you guys for checking it out and seeing it all the way through to the end. If you missed anything we put up on the channel this weekend, you missed the SmackDown review that went up on Friday. You may have missed my review or live reactions to the He-Man Masters of the Universe trailer, which is coming to Netflix in a couple of weeks, which is actually a very controversial topic, and I may be doing more videos on in the near future. Go check those two videos out, as well as everything else on the channel that you may have missed, linked in the annotations up above. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team: Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, his tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in the world, Mr. Blue, the Yeti microphone, the most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you. And now it's time for you to do your part at nearly 45 minutes into this video. If you are still here with me, now is the time for you to hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need a place to come call home where they can come and drop their own poop hammers on Monday Night Raw. The Sledgehammer TV channel on YouTube is always accepting new members into Sledge Nation. You know where to direct them. Share this video, show them where we're at, and then invite them to come along and hit that subscribe button just like you did. And if you haven't, why haven't you? Just go ahead and do it right now. Hit that subscribe button. Become one of the almost 3,000 Sledgeheads of Sledge Nation as we very, very rapidly close in on that 3,000 subscriber mark. Let's hit it before we get to SummerSlam. It would be fantastic, and I would owe it all to you guys. Thank you all so much once again. That is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. And as always, say thanks to the man.
Thanks, Vince.
You jerk.